ready. The 1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. A storybook season with a happy ending. The West Michigan Whitecaps are 2025 Midwest League champions. They mob Marco Jimenez just short of second base behind the pitcher's mound. Hugs for the Whitecaps coaching staff in the third base dugout. The Gatorade bucket has made an appearance on the field. Somebody get the t-shirts and hats. Championship number 7 belongs to the Whitecaps.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big League Dreaming, the podcast, a show about baseball, dreams, and family. If you're new to the podcast, it's a dad and his 3 sons talking about the game they love. Sometimes not all 3 of the guys show up. Like today, we've got 2 of the 3, but let's introduce them before we get to our guest and we talk about the Whitecaps winning it all this year. The West Michigan Whitecaps can't wait to do that. But let's go to son number 1. He's in Charlotte, North Carolina. Big fan of the surging Seattle Mariners. Wow, didn't think that was going to happen this year, but here we are. Zak Gonzalez. How you doing, Zak?
Dad's always hating on the Mariners, I feel like. I'm doing great. Always a good time to talk baseball.
I'm hating on the Mariners because that was horrible when they came to Comerica Park, and I'm like, what is going on here? This is a good team, this Mariners team. But we've talked about the Mariners having their ups and downs. We'll talk a little bit about MLB because this next guest knows a little bit about the MLB. Let's go to son number 2. He's based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He is our Mets fan. And Ty Gonzalez, you don't think I hate on the Mariners, do you?
A little bit, but you might as well hate on the Mets too because they did the same thing to the Tigers at Comerica.
They did. Those 2 series were tough to watch games at Comerica. But your Mets now. I'm not being negative here. I'm rooting for your Mets, but they look terrible.
Yeah, they might as well just try again next year. That's what it's looking like.
Yeah, they should try again next year. And then Zane's son number 3, not on today's show. He's based in South Bend, Indiana. He's our Red Sox fan, and the Red Sox are struggling too. So we'll see how all 4 of our teams fare come postseason because it's winding down. We want to welcome to the show a longtime friend of the show, longtime friend of the family, really, Dan Hasty from the West Michigan Whitecaps. Dan, how you doing?
Gentlemen, boy, it is good to be talking to you guys this week. It has been quite an eventful week for West Michigan. Obviously, that goes without much introduction, but I had a feeling I might be hearing from the Gonzalez family.
Well, before we talk about the West Michigan Whitecaps, which, for these guys, that's team number 1 growing up there in Comstock Park. You've got a Philly. I think Zak noticed you got a Phillies, or Ty noticed you got a Phillies pullover on there. That's your National League team?
That's my National League team. Yep. And by the way, I'm a Mariners fan too. I like the Mariners. I mean, Cal Raleigh has the best nickname in baseball, the Big Dumper himself. I mean, he's gonna hit 60, right? I mean, how much fun is that team right now? So yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the Mariners. The Mets I like their jerseys. The jerseys are pretty cool, but the players in them sometimes are leaving something to be desired.
Yeah, and then the Red Sox. Do you have any ties to the Red Sox at all?
Not. I guess a friend of mine, Mike Monaco, is a fill-in broadcaster for the Red Sox, and he also does the NHL on ESPN. So yeah, definitely. He actually worked with the Fort Wayne Tin Caps once upon a time, so that's how we know each other.
Awesome. Well, obviously, we're going to talk to you. You're the voice of the West Michigan Whitecaps. Gosh, you've been there for how many years now? It seems like it's been a long time.
So this is my 10th season. And so my first season, they won it all. They did that, ironically, in Cedar Rapids, like they did this year, with Jimenez on the mound closing it out like they did this year. And it really feels like yesterday that they won it in 2015. So thinking about winning it then and winning it now and how close it kind of felt like it was to one another, is bizarre when it hits you that 10 years has passed in between those 2 days that you think went back to back.
Well, yeah, and this is great having you on the show because not only are you a huge baseball fan, but for the Tiger fans out there, you've watched all these players come up through the system. So, rooting for today's Detroit Tigers in 2025 and seeing what they've been able to accomplish. Yes, they've lost a few games, but there's still 3.5 games going into the weekend series, 9 games left in the season. They still got a good chance to make the playoffs there. So, you know a lot of these guys personally. So we can talk a little Tigers, but let's stay on the Whitecaps. Ty, I know you went to some games this year. What was your impressions of this year's Whitecaps team? Because it changes a lot in the course of a season being a high A team, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, the first half of the season they were just dominant, and you had those big 3 players: Max Clark, Jose Perseño, and Kevin McGonigal. So they were just dominant with those 3 guys. But we talked about it last couple weeks ago. Like the second half of the season, all those other players are really good. Like Isaac Pacheco, I think, was the Midwest Player of the Year, and he's been on the team since 2022. And I wanted to ask you, Dan. It kind of reminds me of Parker Meadows in a little bit. Like Parker Meadows was on the team for a few years, and then he kind of just shot up to Detroit. Do you think Pacheco will be the same way, or do you think he's gonna kind of slowly make it to Detroit?
I think he's very much of the same caliber. I mean, the backgrounds are so strikingly similar, right? I mean, only difference was I think Parker's from Georgia and Isaac's from Texas. I mean, they're both second rounders. They both have a lot of talent, and it both took them a while. And, I can't help but go back to 2022 and just how different the farm system looked at that point in time. I mean, 2022 was a year that we had Parker Meadows as well as Isaac Pacheco. They were both on the team that year. And with Parker, 4 years went by, just like with Pacheco. And about 2.5, 3 years in, we started seeing the change. And the change also happened to coincide with the changes in player development. And I think it goes as a reminder that a lot of these players that are taken in the draft, maybe say for your Bryce Harpers and your Alex Rodriguez level talents, a lot of these guys are similarly talented. But what separates these two and these players that make it from the ones who don't are 2 things. One, the work ethic of that particular player. If they don't have a work ethic, none of it matters. That's the most important thing. That's the engine that drives the car. But the second thing is the quality of the major league team's player development system. And if you have one, you've got a shot. If you have both, your odds increase so significantly. And I think about players that get drafted into Major League Baseball right about now, in today's day and age. If I was a player, if I was an amateur or a college player, I would be praying that certain teams don't pick me. I would be praying that certain teams don't take me. I would be hoping that a group among the LA Dodgers would take me. The Tampa Bay Rays would take me. Maybe the Atlanta Braves can be in that conversation, the Milwaukee Brewers. And I think now, for the first time in literally, 50 years, maybe, the Trammell and Parrish days, the Tigers are probably on that list.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that, the Tigers are one of the best farm systems in all of Major League Baseball, and you get to witness it firsthand. Dan Hasty, of course, the voice of the West Michigan Whitecaps, the high A affiliate of the Detroit Tigers. Ty went out to see some games this year, more than I got to go. But there's also another connection with Zak Gonzalez. Zak, you probably remember the days when you worked at the Whitecaps as an intern.
Oh yeah, 2012 intern life. Every single game, every hour of my life, I felt like I was at the third ballpark. Yeah, definitely have a lot of memories, not just working there, but just as kids growing up and dad taking us to the ballpark. So we love the Whitecaps for sure. Hasty, I wanted to ask you about kind of reflecting on this season as a whole. You guys just won the championship on Tuesday, so things are still pretty fresh. But 7th Midwest League championship for the Whitecaps, 92 wins overall. They go to Lake County, they sweep 2 of 3 there. They go to Cedar Rapids, they sweep 2 of 3 there. So what is this, 96 wins? Are we talking about the greatest Whitecaps team of all time?
So there was one other team that also won 96 games. You've got to go back to 2006, the last time that happened. But this team lost fewer games than that one did. That team lost, I think, 46 games. This team lost 39 games. So, yeah, I mean, unequivocally, the greatest team that West Michigan Whitecaps baseball has ever seen. It was really fun to be a part of that, especially when their record got better after the promotions of the big three. A lot of people didn't know what it was going to look like when Clark, McGonigal, and Briseño took off. But go figure, they find a way. And I really do think that they probably were paying attention to the comments and the people who thought that they were going to fall off a cliff when those three guys went up. And I know that that's the kind of group that would use that to their benefit, to their motivating side. So I'm not surprised that they had some success. I think all of us are surprised to what level they had it.
Well, I know we will talk more about the big three here. Hopefully we don't run out of time, but I want to get to, since you're the expert, you see all the games, you're there, you're in the trenches, and I love that you brought up the big three and the transition from when they left to the current spirit of the team that helped them propel them to the championship of the Midwest League. Who are these next level of players that we don't know about, right? Ty mentioned Pacheco, who's been a name for a while, but there are got to be some other guys that are bubbling under that Tiger fans are probably will want to know about.
Well, there's always some players, and what's interesting about the Tiger system now is that they have development going in such a way where guys who maybe won't necessarily stand out in terms of their results, although they'll be solid, may end up as major leaguers. I think about a guy like Troy Melton, for example. He was solid in West Michigan, and he had good stuff, but I don't think anybody thought that's a guy who will be up by the end of next season and pitching important innings late in games for Detroit. Like that's just not it. But that's a testament to that system, because for years they had to be one of the big names. They had to, in order to have a real chance of being a big leaguer. Now, because of the depth that the system has, now they have an opportunity to really surprise us with who, in fact, makes it up. But among the guys that played on the team this past year, I mean, obviously a lot of us were talking about Pacheco. He was a lot of fun. There's a guy, and so people make fun of me around the ballpark for talking about this guy, but there's an outfielder named Patrick Lee. He's 25 years old, and he only hit 205 for the Whitecaps. But I will tell you what, this kid has probably the loudest three tools of anyone that I've seen come through in these specific areas. Outfield defensive ability, throwing arm, and speed. He has those as A pluses across the board. A pluses, like cheat code level good. I mean, he literally won games for us multiple times because of his defensive ability. And anytime you got the guy on base, he was stealing second, and he was doing it successfully. I want to say his stolen base success rate for us in 2 seasons is somewhere above 90%. I mean, it was almost automatic when he would get on base. So the question always becomes, and this is always the existential question with baseball players and prospects or non-prospects themselves, will they be able to hit? Well, he showed a little pop. He had 24 runs batted in 65 games, which doesn't really stand out the page. But he also registered the highest exit velocity of any Whitecaps player this year on one of his at-bats. And on a team that had McGonigal, Briseño, Pacheco, for Patrick Lee, this 25-year-old guy who was playing independent league baseball a year and a half ago, to have that at least tells you that it might be in there somewhere. Now it just comes down to whether or not they can find it. But I love watching that kid play. And he's kind of an old 25 in the sense that he's got a daughter, He's got a lot that lot of life experience. I think he's been humbled by the game. So I really love watching him play. There's a lot to like. And then of course, John Peck. He's probably the one that stands out the most. He won the Midwest League batting title this year, hit 307, double-digit homers, great defense, really solid run production, can run almost 20 stolen bases for us, just 22. He became a top 20 prospect during his time in West Michigan. So that's another one you want to keep an eye on.
Ty, I know you have to buzz out probably a little early today, but I want to make sure you get your questions in before, if you do have to leave early.
Yeah, I wanted to know, like, how does the home field advantage work for the playoffs? Because I'm pretty sure Whitecaps I know they won the first half, but did they win the second half as well? I think they had the best record in the second half. And I was wondering, like, how do they not have home field for that championship series? Like, they only got the one home game Sunday.
You're going to love this answer. It's a great question, for the record. And it's basically, yes. So to answer your question, yes, they won the first half and the second half. No team in the Midwest League, and for that matter, in all of minor league baseball, had as good a season as the West Michigan Whitecaps did. As a matter of fact, they have a higher winning percentage this year than any team in Major League Baseball has here in 2025. But you got to love these rules. Every year, the home field advantage switches between the East and West divisions in the Midwest League, and the same goes for other leagues throughout minor league baseball. So there's no rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. It's just because this is what they've always done. So I personally think if you win both halves, that should supersede whatever I mean, I guess for planning purposes, maybe they could say that it makes sense. But when you win at the level that West Michigan did this past year, the least they should get is home field advantage, if not the whole series at their place.
Right.
Yeah.
Good question, Ty. Zach, how about you? I know you got to take off pretty soon too.
Yeah, Hasty, I wanted to talk about just the Tigers organization, player development as a whole. I mean, you mentioned there's plenty of organizations out there that do it better than others, like the Dodgers and the Rays, the Brewers, teams like that can churn out these major leaguers. But Detroit, they're just winning. Like, what is this championship attitude? I mean, the Lakeland Flying Tigers, they won the championship. West Michigan Whitecaps, they win the Midwest League. The Erie Seawolves are playing in the AA championship tonight, I believe. And then Toledo, are they not in first place in the second half in AAA? Are they going to be playing potentially the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp in the AAA championship? Like, what is happening in 2025 for the Tigers? Is this the year?
What's fascinating is that there is an outside shot that every single full season minor league affiliate for the Detroit Tigers wins a minor league championship. And just to have good teams, let alone and playoff teams, let alone a championship winning team, is crazy. It's just bananas. And the fact that the Whitecaps were not the only team in the minor league system to win a championship on the same day, because Lakeland won their championship the same night. We literally had guys in the locker room during the postgame celebration dancing around talking about how they won 2 rings on one day. So yeah,
Amazing.
Erie's now playing playoffs. Toledo is, I think, a game in front of Indianapolis in the second half, so that they could easily get in. And now all of a sudden you could be talking about every single full season affiliate to make it. And to kind of go back to your point on development, I can tell you this, with the Tigers having their current struggles at the major league level, and I say that knowing full well that this is a team that's 15 to 20 games over 500 this year and who probably overachieved earlier in the season, can say this unequivocally. I've had a chance to get to know Scott Harris over the last couple of years, and I can tell you this, he is obsessed with winning. Not so much in the cliche version, but there's a lot of front office people who love to win, but not every front office person considers it part of development. Not every front office person makes it a priority for these guys to be considering the dominance of their team and of their personals to be at a winning level, at a dominant level. And that's why I think they hold some guys back. I think there's been this push, this outcry to get a guy like Kevin McGonigal to the big leagues, to get a guy like Max Clark or Jose Briseño up to AAA. But they want so badly for these guys to essentially be feeling like they're playing at these levels on rookie mode, not just so they could have success, but because that's what they want them to expect of themselves. And that's the process that you go through in the minor leagues. And that's the process that I think they hope pays off once they get to the major leagues.
I mean, that makes sense, right, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, winning is a skill. You want to teach your minor league
Yes.
to be able to experience winning. I mean, there's other organizations. It's like, all right, it's all about development. Let's move him up quickly. Let's get him to the bigs. We'll teach him when he gets there. But there's other organizations that really go after championships. And when you teach a guy to win, it becomes, Derek Jeter, it becomes part of yourself, and it sets guys up for success in a different way.
Can I tell you a quick story about teams that care about development over winning? So we were playing a game, and I will leave this team nameless because of just how embarrassing this is for them. But we were in a game in which we were tied going into the 10th inning, and they had come back from a 4-run deficit to force extra innings, only to put in their first baseman to pitch the 10th. They put in their first baseman because, quote, we don't have anybody who can throw today because the other guys who are, quote, available pitched yesterday and they haven't had enough time. So you want to talk about teams that care about winning? There are some, but there's also teams that just do not care. And that is something that usually gets reflected upon the arrival from those players into the major leagues.
Great story. Dan Hasty, voice of the West Michigan Whitecaps on Big League Dreaming podcast, because you know what? The Whitecaps are in our backyard. Yeah, I mean, they're right there. The kids grew up there. We played on the field as youth players, and as a coach myself, coached games there. So long history. All right, I know Ty's got to go pretty soon, so Ty probably wants to know the big three. When are we going to see them at Co-America Park, and will these guys all make an impact, or are they all just, should we not look at them that way? Should we look at them, I mean, let's face it, McGonigal has gone up, right? Is overpassed Max Clark on list and so forth on a national level. People finally see what potential he has. What do you see happening here, Mr. Hasty?
Yeah, I mean, he passed Max Clark, but I mean, Max is still, I think, a top 10 prospect in baseball. So, I mean, at that point, I think we're just splitting hairs, but just depends on who you read. But McGonigal, I mean, there's some places that have him as baseball's number 1 prospect. And, at first, I will say, I wasn't sure. I was a little skeptical of thinking, like, is he really like everything they say he is? And he only played 36 games for us, and he completely made a believer out of me. I mean, he hit 372. I mean, that's not on the growth chart. So to see what he was able to do, and he's just solid in all the other important areas, but he can run, he can field. His arm is good enough for short. It'll probably end up at second base long term. Who knows? But I saw one night where he was hitting against a guy throwing 104 miles per hour throughout the first 5 or 6 innings. And he got 3 straight hits. And then his last at bat, he had to come in and face a second baseman, a position player pitching. So you go from facing 104 to 52 miles an hour of a gravity sinker. And there's a reason that pro baseball players swing and miss when the position player comes in, because I can promise you, and I can bet dollars to donuts, that there is never 10 seconds spent in a full season from a major league team asking their prospect, hey, what should we do if the first baseman comes in to pitch? Like, it's just not part of the handbook. So to see him be able to go hit 104 in one at bat, and then the next at bat essentially go up and redo his swing in real time to hit a beer league softball pitch, that's really, really hard to do. And nobody gives credit in a situation like that. But McGonigal's awesome. I think he's one of the best. He's the best hitting prospect I've ever seen come through West Michigan. And we've seen Riley Green, we've seen Spencer Torkelson, Colt Keith, among others. Max Clark, I think he's going to be a very solid major league player. I think right now, with him being in Erie, his home run totals will go up. People will see more power. That's a ballpark that is not one that is favorable to pitchers. We'll just put it that way. Jose Briseño is awesome. He is tremendous. And we speculated that he was going to win Midwest League MVP. Now, he only played 60 games before he ended up going up. But the swing decisions were phenomenal. I don't think I ever saw the guy swing at a pitch out of the strike zone. He was also someone that he also had that clutch gene. And you guys have watched enough baseball to know that not every player has that. He has that. And that's a big separator for a guy like Briseño. I also think he can hang behind the plate. I mean, he's a big guy, but he was fine behind the plate, especially when you take the bat into consideration. He was fine. Is he going to ever be confused with Jake Rogers? Probably not, but he's going to be good enough. And if they end up putting him in at first base, he'll be very good there. But I think overall, McGonigal, Briseño, Clark, I think you've got three very good big leaguers. And the fact that those guys were hitting 2, 3, and 4 in West Michigan's lineup in July, and then went and hit, I think, like 2, 3, and 7 in the MLB futures game. Look, these three guys are going to be hitting 2, 3, and 4 in Detroit about a year and a half from now. It's going to be really, really special.
Well, Dan, they'll for sure be getting a Midwest League championship ring, right?
They will. Maybe a second one in the Eastern League, depending on how things go.
Guys, anything else you want to add before we wrap things up here?
No, just thanks for joining us and talking baseball. And I want to say something real quick. I always love the pregame show you guys do on the field before the games, because it's really nice, especially for fans that don't go all the time, to hear about like who they should be watching for. So I really appreciate the pregame show you guys do before the games.
That's really sweet of you. I appreciate that. That's something that we really had to push for a long time, and to be able to do it, it's just a way for us to be in the ballpark with our people. There's so many times where we feel like we're kind of boarded up in the booth and we don't get a chance to be down with our people. So that gives us a way to get down there, either through the little camera that's in the booth that can see us, or if we actually are able to get down and go on the third base side. But it's been a lot of fun to watch how things have come together there in so many different ways. The new locker rooms, the new renovations, which are, I think, now through phase 2. They've got phase 3 coming, and that includes the 360-degree walk around at the ballpark. So there's a lot more coming where that came from.
Yeah, congratulations.
Zach, how about you?
Congratulations, Hasty, on the championship. And thanks for making time for us today.
Thank you, boys. I appreciate you guys taking the time.
All right, Dan Hasty, the voice of the West Michigan Whitecaps, the Midwest League Championship 2025. If people want to find out what's happening with the Whitecaps, or what's next on the agenda, what's happening in the off season, the foundation, the big banquet, all that stuff, where can they go?
It's all the news, pretty much, depending on what's going on this off season. I know they're gonna, as you mentioned, they'll have their winter banquet. We'll induct another member into the Whitecaps Hall of Fame. The nominees this year are a couple of those 4-year Whitecaps: Parker Meadows, Wenzel Perez, and some guy named Tarek Skubal. So we'll see. If you can only vote one, I have a feeling I think who might be the favorite for that. But yeah, whitecapsbaseball.com is the place. And Of course, there's also the business of hanging a banner coming up in 2026. They'll be doing that on opening night, and that'll happen in the early weeks of April when the Great Lakes Loons come to town. I want to say that is Tuesday, April the 7th. So it'll be here before we know it.
It's already on his calendar. Ty, take us out. What a great show.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for listening to this episode. You can follow us wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Big League Dreaming the Podcast, every single Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you on the next one, everyone.
Bye, everyone.